Okay, so part 1 of your final exam is tomorrow. We're going to go through the study guide. Now, your study guide looks just like your final exam. Tomorrow's part 1 will have 20 questions. Now, they're going to be mixed. It's not going to be all multiple choice or all free response. Now, I know the study guide was all free response, but as we're going through this morning, I am going to clarify and tell you this is going to be a multiple choice question, or this will be a free response question. So I will let you know that. So it's going to be mixed. You're going to be able to write on the final exam. I'm not going to give you a bubble sheet or anything. You're just going to do all the work right on your exam. All right, so the first question, this is from the percent lesson. I went ahead and set mine up as a proportion, and I used the is over of, percent over 100, filled in my numbers, and then treated it as a proportion, cross, multiply, and divide. This will be a multiple choice question. The next one, this is not a multiple choice. This will be a free response. So you will be graphing on this question. You will first show me the calculations of finding the intercepts, and then you will graph the line. So I want to see the intercepts labeled on your graph or over to the side like I did here. So this is a free response question. Everybody good on the first two? Everybody remember how to do those two? All right. The next one, it says find an equation of the line. So here we're actually using two formulas for number 3. We're actually using the slope formula where we're going to subtract the y2 minus the y1 over x2 minus x1. We're going to find the slope. Then we're going to plug this in to the y equals mx plus b formula. We're going to calculate the b, which is the y-intercept. And then from there, plug back in both the m, which is the slope, and the y-intercept. So again, when you're doing this, it doesn't matter which order pair you label as x1, y1, which one you label as x2, y2, either way. Now, also realize that you can also put this back into standard form. So be aware of the two different forms. So let me go ahead and show you now how to transform this into standard form, because this question is going to be multiple choice. So if you don't see slope intercept, then you need to realize, wait a minute, I need to put this back into standard form, and standard form doesn't have any fractions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the slope intercept, and in order to get this without any fractions, I'm going to multiply everything by 3 to clear the fraction. So this becomes 3y. This one becomes negative 8x minus 14. And then I can move the 8x over, and now it's in standard form. So be aware of the different formats. Okay, the one circled in pink is slope intercept. This is standard form. So because this is a multiple choice question, you need to look for the correct form. So after you plug it back into slope intercept, then you'd have to rearrange it back to standard form. The next one, again, you're using the slope formula on number 4. And again, the y2 minus the y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, this one is also a multiple choice question. Remember, when your graph, so let's say here, is going to be a horizontal line, the slope is 0, this way. However, if your graph of your line is vertical, this one, up and down, has the undefined slope. So another thing to remember is when you do the slope formula, If the 0 is on top of a number, this one simplifies to 0. When the 0 is underneath a number, this is the one that simplifies to undefined. So keep in mind that on the test, both choices are going to be listed as multiple choice. So you need to figure out which one simplifies to undefined and which one will simplify to 0. They're not going to show you this and that it equals 0. The multiple choice answer is either going to have 0 or undefined, or it's going to actually have a slope number. So keep in mind, this questioning could be 0, undefined. It could be a positive number, or it could be a negative number. Everybody good on those first 4? Let's try number 5. All right, so for number 5, this is a free response question. You will have to graph it. Now, for this one, you could either, I did it 2 ways. I first did it putting them both in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, graphed it using that method. Or the other method for graphing is you could find the x and the y intercepts and then connect the points. It doesn't matter how you do it, just show me one method and produce the graphs. And you're graphing them both on the same coordinate plane. The next one, this is also a free response question. Here you need to factor. Yes. You're welcome. Okay, so for number 6, whenever you're multiplying 2 rational expressions, you're going to need to factor each part first. And then from there, that's when you can start looking for something that you can cancel from the top to the bottom. Now you can cancel something right on top of each other. You can cancel diagonally as long as something in the top matches something with a denominator. So something in the numerator can cancel with the denominator. Once you cancel something, what's left behind is a 1 here. And then know that once you simplify something, that turns into a 1, and then you can't use it again. So for this one, the only thing I could have canceled and simplified were the x plus 5s. So on this one, it is a free response. So I will accept either like this, completely factored, or turning these 2 into x minus 3 squared. So I would accept either answer on this one. Everybody good? Okay, number 7. This one is asking you to find the perimeter, or use the perimeter information to find the length of the largest side. This question will be multiple choice. Keep in mind, whenever they're giving you a question like this, they might try to trick you and list the smallest side as one of the choices, or the second side. So make sure you read directions whenever you're getting questions like this. So again, perimeter means to add up all the sides. Again, 3, 7, 11 is the ratio. It's not necessarily the numbers. So here, the largest side would have been the 11x, and that ended up being 143. Again, a multiple choice question. Number 8, long division. We actually have 2 of these on the test. So again, remember when you're doing long division, you need to have every term accounted for. So I needed to do like a countdown. So when I set up my problem, notice it went from x cubed down to the constant. So I had to hold a spot for the x squared, for the x term, and then finally list the constant. And then from there, you'll begin your division process. Now, this particular problem did not have a remainder. Later on in the study guide, remember when there's a remainder, you take that remainder and you write it over your divisor. And you write it sort of like a fraction or a mixed number. This question will be free response. Number 9. Now, anytime I'm given any of these geometry questions, like for perimeter or area or anything like that, I always like to draw a picture. So here it said the length of the rectangle is 7 more than 2 times the width. So I let W represent my width, and then the length was 2 times the width with 2 times W plus 7. Now, there are different formulas for perimeter, but essentially you're adding up all the sides. So I added W plus 2W plus 7 plus 2W plus 7 and set it equal to 86. Combine my like terms and then solve the two-step equation. This question will be multiple choice. So again, it's looking for the dimensions for this problem. Once I found W, then I plugged it in to the 2W plus 7 to get the length. Number 10, this one is solving the system. Now, when it says solve the system, if it doesn't specify a method, you can choose whatever method you want. So keep in mind that when it says solve the system, you could do substitution, you could do elimination. Technically, you could graph them to see the order pair. But the problem with graphing is it's kind of hard to, if you don't have graphing paper, it might be hard to get the precise point. Now, in this type of question, keep in mind, remember we can have 0 solutions, meaning that they're parallel. So no solution is an option. Infinitely many, meaning they're exactly the same line. Or we could have 1 point of intersection, meaning 1 order pair where the 2 lines cross. So keep in mind, all of these options are going to be listed. You're either going to have no solution, it'll say many solutions, or sometimes you'll see all real numbers. But in this particular multiple choice question, one of the choices is going to say many solutions, one will say no solution, and then one is just going to be like a specific ordered pair. So an X and a Y. So 2 numbers, X comma Y. That would be the 1 solution. So that's number 10. And again, you can choose any method. I decided to do the elimination method where I multiplied both equations by a number, and I was trying to eliminate the X, but in essence, I ended up canceling out X and Y. Now, because I got a true statement, 0 equals 0, that means it's infinitely many. Later on in the study guide, we had another one of these where once we canceled the variables, we were left with like 0 equals 4, which is nonsense, and that produces the no solution answer. So understand what you're looking for here. If you would have solved and actually got a value for X, and then you would have plugged it in to get Y, that's when you would get the 1 solution. Number 11 is a long division question. This one, when you work it out, is actually got a remainder. So again, you're going to write it as a fraction. So you take the remainder and you write that on top of your divisor. So that's where I wrote the remainder. This is going to be also a free response question where you're going to have to show the work. Number 12 is going to be a graphing question. This one is going to also be free response because all you're doing is graphing the line. Remember, when it's X equaling a number, that is going to give us a vertical line. When it's Y equals a number, that gives us a horizontal line. Everybody good so far? All right, number 13. This one is asking us to solve for x. This is also a free response question. So what I did here was I needed to find a common denominator. So this had ones underneath. So my common denominator was x. So I went ahead and, or I needed to eliminate the x out of the bottom of that one. So once I multiplied everything by x, I resulted with this. Then it gave me a trinomial that I could factor. And then again, you're going to plug in the numbers, make sure it is not extraneous, make sure it's a good solution. This did not make the denominator 0, so my answers are x equals -4 and x equals -2. Number 14. This one is going to be multiple choice. And again, it's going to be just like this, where it's going to ask you to write the equation and solve the problem for a specific number of people. So my equation is here. Now, you could have on the test that they're going to probably use x's and y's. So we could also write this as 15x plus 85 equals y. You can even flip it around and write the y first. So again, when they don't specify in the problem what variable to use, you can choose whatever letter. So I use C for cost, P for person. However, because it's ending up as being a system of equations, you can solve it with x and y. The next one, this one is to solve. So I did this two ways. So my first method is to subtract or add the 81 and use the square root method. I first had to isolate the x squared, and then I square root both sides. The other method would be to factor that perfect square trinomial, and it would factor into 2x plus 9, 2x minus 9. Whenever it says to solve, you need to set it equal to 0. So this question is also multiple choice. So again, you would just solve it and then look for your answer. Number 16 is also multiple choice. Now here it's telling you to use linear combination. I believe that was their terms in the textbook, which was elimination. However, because it's a multiple choice question, technically you could do elimination if you'd like, but this one's set up nice and easy to do the linear combination, the elimination method, just by either subtracting them or multiplying one of the equations by -1. And that's what I did. So then your two answers are 2, -4. Number 17, this one is solving this. This is a free response question. Again, what I did was I multiplied my entire equation by 100 to clear the decimal point. Or essentially just move the decimal point 2 times on all of the terms. Now, if you'd rather distribute it as the decimal and then work with it as a decimal, you can. You're still going to get the same answer. On this question, if you want to leave this improper, I'm okay with that. So you can leave this as 1,500 over 47. Now, if 1,500 over 47 could have been reduced more, you should do that. So it could actually simplify into 31 and 43 over 47. Okay, next one, number 18. This one is multiple choice. So again, we want to find the slope and the y-intercept. So the easiest way to do that would be to put it back into, from standard form, which is how it's given, into y equals mx plus b form, slope-intercept form. Remember, the number in front of x is the slope, and then the number all by itself, the b, that is your y-intercept. So the slope here is 4/3, and my y-intercept is -9. This question again is multiple choice. Again, as you're going through this test, take your time on the multiple choice tests or questions, because one sign, if you're in a rush, you could pick the wrong choice, because some of the answers look really similar. The only difference is the sign. And then number 19. For this one, I needed to find a common denominator, but before I found the common denominator, I needed to factor it. So I factored the first term here, the x squared minus 16, and I made it x plus 4, x minus 4. Then from there, I could see what was missing in each fraction. So in my second fraction here that I was trying to add, it was missing the x plus 4. And then the last one here, it was missing the x minus 4. Now, common mistakes people make is they think they can cancel things. So you need to distribute and then combine like terms before you cancel. So once you find the common denominator, you can get rid of it, and then you're only working with the numerator, which turns into something that I can just solve for x by combining my terms. So once I got it here, I combine my x's on the left and my numbers on the right, divided and solved. And then the last question again is a percent question. Actually, number 19 is going to be free response. And then the last question in part 1, actually no, I'm sorry, this is a multiple choice question. So number 19 is multiple choice. Number 20 is also multiple choice. So again, just like the very first question, I'm using the proportion is over of percent over 100. Cross multiply and divide. Because the question said what percent, I'm adding the percent sign to my answer. What I like about the proportion is we don't have to worry about moving any decimal points. You put the numbers that are in the problem into the proportion, and what you get out is your answer. So again, part 1 tomorrow is 20 questions. And again, it's mixed. So, it alternates between free response, multiple choice. Now, again, any test taking strategy, anytime you take a test, if you come to a question that you are stuck on, skip it and keep moving. So tomorrow I will be giving you Scratch, and I'm going to be giving you the part 1. No bubble sheet. You're doing all of your work on the test. And then there'll be a blank line where you can write your answers. Any questions? Yes?
So all of the questions that are free response, you have to show on Earth
Yes.
in order to get credit?
Yes. Okay. For the multiple choice questions, I'm not sure if I will give partial credit. Generally, on a multiple choice question, whatever you've written on the line is the answer, but I will confirm that. But I would show work for everything. All right, so I will be posting this video, and then I will also post the file because the entire study guide was due today, even though you're only taking part 1 tomorrow. So I'm going to post the solutions for this so that way you can check the rest of this, and then we will go through 21 through the rest of the problems on Wednesday, the part 2 of the test. And again, on Wednesday, I will also tell you which questions are multiple choice, which ones are free response. But again, Anytime you take a multiple choice test, make sure you're looking at all the choices. For math, multiple choice tests are tricky. So make sure you look and make sure you've got the right sign. So again, 1 through 20, the questions are identical to these. If you need more practice, try to go back and find the lesson where we learned this, and then look for more additional homework problems that you could do to practice it a little bit more. But if you did 1 through 20 over the weekend and you had no problem with it, then part 1 should be nice and easy for you.